and the temptations that can happen with elected officials, because you have people come to you with good programs. Your choices aren't between good and bad programs. A lot of them are good and good programs. Tabor gives you an opportunity to hold that government in check. So yes, it's been abused. Yes, it's been ignored. But it's been ignored and abused primarily by the Democrats, and Hickenlooper won't be any different than Ritter when it comes to Tabor. I stand for Tabor, and it will be around as long as I'm your governor.
You can pry Tabor from my cold, dead hands. You put it there. The people of Colorado put it there a long time ago for good reason, and it must be protected. And you bet it's under assault, just like the congressman said. And now, here's one of the most deceptive and low assaults they've tried. Over a couple of weeks ago, they said, the legislature, the democratically controlled legislature, is going to try to put a referendum on the ballot that says you don't have to vote for tax increases if it's for education. It's for the kids. How could you say no? And can you hear the violins all the way from Denver playing right now? That's how low they've gotten. You know, Bill Ritter mugged you over and over and over again this year by bypassing Tabor. But you know, in the alley where he mugged you off of Broadway, 2 state Supreme Court justices watched one end of the alley, and 2 more watched the other end of the alley, and they empowered him to mug you and violate Tabor. And that's got to stop. We have to clear the bench. And we have to put conservatives who apply our Constitution. They don't legislate it. They don't interpret it. They look at it. They apply it. And that's it. We keep it simple, and we're done. Thank you very much.
Dan, the next question is it really covers states' rights. And in trying to put 2 or 3 of the questions together here, I think what it boils down to is that we've seen a lot of what many people feel is a usurpation of the rights of the states, 10th Amendment, 9th Amendment problem. And that is a general question. And then in the West, we have the problem, of course, that vast portions of our states are owned by the federal government. So what do you believe the role of the governor should be in trying to protect the proper place? What do you see the proper place, I suppose, as part of that? And to protect that place in relation to the federal Constitution and the federal government.
Very good. Article 1, Section 8 of our federal Constitution lists about 17 things. It says, here's your job, federal government. Who gave them that authority? The people of 13 sovereign states did. The 10th Amendment says, if it's not listed above, who's in charge of it? 50 sovereign states and the people of those 50 sovereign states. And that's the kind of governor that I want to be. Past behavior indicates future behavior. When I was in business, I was a franchisee. A franchisee stands on its own and looks to the franchisor for assistance. Quality franchises take control of their own destiny and they become successful on their own. And they say, Mr. Franchisor, if I need your help, I'll call you. See, I've done this before. I didn't want the franchisor in my world, and if I needed them, I would call them. I think Colorado needs one thing from Washington, and that's national defense. Protect us against our enemies. Protect us against our enemies, foreign and domestic, which we are seeing all over now, thanks to our new president. And we have to start standing for our own state's rights. And you know what? If someone has a federal permit to drill on the Roan Plateau and Ken Saladar doesn't like it, he can come to Denver and talk to me about it, and we're going to drill and get that oil and gas out of the ground. Okay. So that's the kind of governor I want to be for you. And folks, it's hard to stand up to Washington when your old friends and your money are coming from there. How are you going to stand up unless you can just do it because you don't owe anybody? Thank you.
Thank
Well, in regards to the 10th Amendment, you need to be very specific. I mean, you can get up here and give rah-rah lines and stuff, but the specifics, the real challenge we have are the unfunded federal mandates that are being jammed down our throat. Now, the question really had two parts. One dealt with public lands, which is a little different than what we're talking about on the 10th Amendment. This Obama health care plan, one, I think it's unconstitutional, and I completely support John Suthers in his lawsuit, and he would have full backing of the governor's office. The second thing to take a look at is when you look at our budget, 44% of our budget is already tied to K through 12. That's voter protected. We can't do much about that. Then we have 14% that we put in. By the way, a governor doesn't write the budget. That's written by the Joint Budget Committee through a long bill and the long bill process. But when you look at so you have 15% you put in there for corrections. That's going to stay there. You have 45%. Then we have 30% of our budget, which is mandated by the federal government. And with this new health care plan, it will be much, much more, probably $80 to $100 million more, not our priorities, but the priorities of the federal government. You need to have a governor that understands, one, how the federal government works, number two, what kind of expectations to have from our congressional delegation, and three, a governor that understands what the play is between the federal budgets, how it works with the military, how it works our state highways, our interstate out here, 80%, and it comes down to the fact that the federal government has to have somebody that'll look them right in the eye and say, come back here and do the job right or get the hell out of here, one of the two. The second thing, very quickly, are the public lands. None of my opponents ever had any experience in public lands. We are totally reliant out here on public lands. We're completely surrounded by public lands. Now you can say, as the mayor of Denver does, well, I'm going to do this and that. Well, I hate to tell you something. You're not going to be able to do what you think. The fact is, he doesn't give a hoot about our public lands out here, in my opinion, and our jobs are not completely, but, well, completely dependent on somebody who knows public lands, and I chair that committee. I know how to work those public lands.
Thank you, Scott. We've got a lot of good questions coming up here. I'm going to have to sort through them for you guys when we get to that section. Here's just sort of changing gears for a minute, and let's talk about medical marijuana, and I think we could make air quotes around medical when we say that for most of us here. With the initiative that was passed in Colorado and where we've ended up now, how do you, as candidates and as governors, feel that Colorado should react to the situation we have right now with the medical dispensaries and the state of what's going on with marijuana in the state of Colorado?
I go first, right?
Yeah.
It's okay. Well, first, as governor, you follow the mandates of the people. That's who you work for. I work for you. That's what we're doing tonight. We're interviewing with you. So when the people pass an amendment or a resolution, they expect you to follow it. Now, they did not expect we would have medicinal marijuana shops on every corner and that we'd have the annual convention. That all came out very quickly, history. You know, for the first year or so, it went to the use I think it was intended to, for medicinal uses. Then Obama, once again, the federal government coming in, and he said to the DEA, don't worry about marijuana. The minute that happened, they knew they could clear that hurdle, and they started popping up everywhere. So the key now, and it's actually in the state legislature today, in fact, it may have passed out later this afternoon,